Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another episode of the Freshman 15 College Football Podcast with me, LP Cruz, right back with Tyler Moore talking college football in about 15 minutes, but maybe not tonight because tonight is a lot to go over with the CFP on the horizon, championship games, and so much more. So want to get right into it. Just talk about a big week ahead of us, a big week from last week, and what this means going forward on the Freshman 15. So without further ado, Tyler, my man, what is up?
Not too much. Yeah, I'm kind of sad from last weekend. The Buckeyes let me down for the third year in a row. It hurts, but I guess the better team won. And like you said, we're gonna dive into this college football championship weekend, and there's a crazy amount of scenarios that can happen, and the team that we just mentioned still could possibly get in. But we'll talk about that in a minute.
For sure, man. So let me kind of go with the appetizer before the main courses here. And that was last week's game of UW and Washington State, the Apple Cup. So quick thoughts on that game from what I saw. Once again, it was kind of those nit-tuck games we've seen over the last probably month and a half now with Washington, where they kind of struggle a bit on offense. Defense gives them some plays, but then they kind of find their way at the end. I think what was different this week versus the weeks before that, they closed the game. First off, hats off to Rome Odunze. He is in talks to be one of the best receivers in the country. I still think that title belongs to MHJ, but Odunze is right there at number 2, I think. He has just a total package, man. He has separation at the top of the route, ball skills, speed. And he's a dynamic piece that you can put, literally anywhere in the formation, and he'll do plenty of damage. We saw it on his one touchdown, just got plenty of space. Then on the crucial call, the 4th and 1, that's just so creative, man. The end around under looks like a 4th and 1 situation, maybe a sneak, maybe a running back handoff, but just incredible play calling from that team. And Odunze delivers in the clutch, so big time on that front. I will say though, for Washington, it's all about this weekend, of course, which we'll talk about in a second. But they did what they had to do, so props to them, man. But I know you're still hurting and reeling from last week, so talk about your game last week, man. The game from last week.
Yeah, so it was Ohio State, Michigan, and I had Ohio State winning that game, but obviously that didn't happen. But it was a close game, like everyone thought it was going to be, and the defensive battle. And then you could say Blake Corum, when he really put that game away for them. He had scored on the same exact play that they ran against Maryland to put that game away. The bounce off the left tackle with Sonny Styles. He didn't contain his edge, and basically Corum walks right in. But like we said, we couldn't make mistakes. Kyle McCord, he made one early. He brings his team back. He's driving down the field with less than a minute to go, and he makes a crucial error, and he's getting ready to take a sack, and he rushes the throw, throws it short hops it, and it's intercepted in Michigan territory. And it's one of those things where he wants to have that ball back, but it's the better team. They made more plays, and it sucks. It's 3 years in a row. Ryan Day's really on the hot seat here in Ohio, and but yeah, the Wolverines overcame. I'd say a very close game, 30-24.
So the fallout from that game has some talking points that kind of intertwine the game, the Apple Cup, and the game also, if you think about it. So I think when I look back at this game, and you got Ryan Day covered, I think, in our next segment, but when you look at what happened in that game in Kyle McCord, the inexperience kind of showed, and that's where you saw a little bit of what's happening. And we talked about this kind of off air, but there is a drop-off in quarterback talent at Ohio State over the last couple of years. You've been spoiled by guys like Justin Fields, CJ Stroud tearing up the NFL right now. There's a major drop-off in a very good team, though. Let's not get it twisted. This is a very good elite caliber team that should win a title, but just the inexperience of Kyle McCord has kind of held them back a little bit, and that kind of showed up in the game. Like you said, he rushed the throw where he saw pressure probably a bit too early. He was a bit skittish, and didn't just hang in there, take the hit, and delivered a bad throw. But with that said, there's talks about Cam Ward of Washington State being on the move as well. And breaking news today, Ryan Leonard will enter the transfer portal as well. Early numbers showing for Ward might be somewhere in the range of $2 million to move on to maybe, move on to the Buckeyes. So I think that's kind of one things to kind of keep an eye out for as well. Plus Ryan Day and everything else, but just the business is already starting in college football. Before we can get to championships and titles, we're talking about movements, and the money moves are happening already. So we'll see about that one, man, with Cam Ward possibly getting offers from the Buckeyes. And maybe even Washington too. So it's kind of crazy. But also, Riley Leonard also maybe making a move. So, and again, you feel for McCord, but that's just kind of how it goes, man. Wins and losses, and the edge and the margin of victory is so slim, especially in the Big Ten. So that's a tough one, man.
Yeah, and to kind of lead into this, like the who helped them hurt themselves, it's gonna be Ohio State and Ryan Day. But the thing with Ryan Day
Mm-hmm.
is when
Mm-hmm.
when he plays Michigan, he plays scared. He coaches scared. He coaches tight. But when you play against Georgia last year, when you slip into the playoffs, you don't play that. You don't coach that way. Your players are playing free, and your quarterback, your young, inexperienced quarterback, he's taking on the persona of his coach, and he's playing
Exactly.
scared because you're coaching scared, and all you have to do is be a game manager. And Ryan Day, he keeps running Travion Henderson straight into a 7-man box, bounce him outside. He's fast. Get Xavier Johnson in. He's fast, and they're not doing those kind of things, but. And to top it off, you touched on Kyle McCord being a little bit inexperienced. Like I said, he was a game manager basically all year, and I gave him the benefit of the doubt. He had better stats than McCarthy almost all year long. But the thing is now, like you said, Cam Ward, he might be coming to Ohio State. They're in the running for him, and then they just had their recruit Aaron Nolan. He's fully committed to Ohio State now. And if you look on like his rivals, what would that be? His projection, he's a 9.9 out of 10 stars. So I mean he's right there. So Kyle McCord, he might have played himself out of a job especially if Ryan Day ends up getting. I don't think he's gonna get canned. I think they're gonna give him probably another year. But there's a lot that has to change in that Ohio State coaching, the way that Ryan Day is coaching. In the previous episode I made fun of James Franklin, but Ryan Day's the same exact way right now. You play well against all these other good teams, but you're coaching scared. It's almost like Jason Garrett when he coached the Cowboys. He coached not to lose the game, not to win the game. He coached not to lose the game, and that's the exact same way that Ryan Day coaches against Michigan, and not against anybody else.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. So we're going to be on this one unanimous, and it's going to be Ryan Day for hurting himself the most.
Yep.
It was set up in front of them. They really could have had a much more aggressive game plan. And again, you saw the dichotomy in what, and again, it's not the same caliber of opponent, I understand that, but you see the same dichotomy with Washington and their game. Like they went for it. They said, look, we're not losing this game. This game means too much.
Right.
And you don't have that in your back pocket. And it's different because in Washington's case, had they lost, you're probably out of the running, but you also have a quality opponent there too. So chaos might benefit you in some way, which we'll talk about later. But you just see how the styles and the person, like you said, personalities of the head coach kind of going to your players. And that's what I saw. And again, if you're going to be Kyle McCord, you can say, well, you didn't give me the reins, because the funny thing is when he had to have it at South Bend, he did.
Yep.
And that's the difference. He just didn't have it there. So I think that's it, man. I think we can say unanimously they hurt themselves the most. However, leading into our next segment,
yeah,
there may be a light at the end of the tunnel. So I'll let you lead the way here, man. We have a lot of games to cover. We can start with the Big Ten title game if you want.
Yeah. So first off, top 8 teams, and it's chaos because all top 8 teams, they can make their way in. So you got Georgia 1, Michigan 2, Washington, the Huskies 3, Florida State 4, Oregon 5, Ohio State 6, Texas 7, Alabama 8. So that lays you out. So then, like you said, you're gonna have Michigan versus Iowa. You're gonna have Louisville, number 14 Louisville against Florida State. You're gonna have Oregon and Washington play against each other. One of those guys is gonna be knocked out. And then you have Alabama, Alabama, Georgia, and then Texas is playing against Oklahoma State. And Oklahoma State is playing pretty well right now. And then you have the lone team that's not playing this weekend. They're sitting there as Ohio State. So the Big Ten title game, like you said. I believe, like if you look at DraftKings, they have Iowa, like you can bet on them to score a point per half. Like they're not giving them any chance. It's like 0.5, because their offense is stagnant against the number 1 defense in college football. So you're gonna say, let's say Michigan wins, and then you're gonna go. This is where the real chaos happens. Georgia and Alabama. So if Georgia,
that's the one.
Yep, if Georgia takes it. Well, so you have 1-2 locked up, and I believe that's the 7 o'clock game, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's the 7 o'clock game or 4. Oh,
4 o'clock.
yeah, the Big Ten. The Big
4
Ten
o'clock.
is 7 o'clock. So you have that game. That's where the chaos happens because like we talked before, the CFP they if they could they would have two SEC teams lined up,
Oh
ready to
yeah,
go into that
yeah,
top four. So then you have like I mentioned before, you have Washington versus Oregon. The loser of that game is going to be knocked out. Boom, knocked out. And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so because they're sitting at 3-5 right now, the loser knocked out. Ohio State sitting there at 6. They have the best loss in the country. They lost to the number 2 team by 6 points in Ann Arbor. So you get that 3-point
Correct.
home field, whatever. And then you have Texas versus Oklahoma State. I'm not sure if Texas wins, if the Big 12 championship is enough to get them in over the best loss in the country in Ohio State, since they lost to Oklahoma earlier in the year, and then Oklahoma continued to lose games on after that. And then that's all for naught if they end up losing to Oklahoma State anyways. But then the big one for me as an Ohio State fan, the big one for me is Louisville versus Florida State. Florida State has played a couple tight games.
That could be your door.
Yeah, that is the door. So let's say Georgia takes care of Alabama. One's done. Michigan takes care of Iowa. That one's done. Huskies and Oregon, whoever wins that's sitting at number 3. So then you have
It's 3.
yeah, that's your 3. So then you have Louisville. If Louisville takes care of Florida State, who's played in some very close games as of lately, and then their Sands, Jordan Travis. What number 14 takes out number 4? Louisville's not going to jump up, and so then Ohio State is sitting there, and now you say, hey, if Texas wins, is that enough? Is that enough to put them in over Ohio State? But with the way they release this right now, it's showing you that the committee values Ohio State over Texas, even though they have the loss that's fresh in their memory. So even with that extra week to showcase what they have, I'm not sure Texas has enough to propel themselves into the top 4, even if they do beat Oklahoma State Cowboys.
So, all right, and we're gonna probably bounce back here and there doing this. So I'm looking at the schedule from Friday through, I guess in chronological order, if you will, right? So from Friday through Saturday. I will agree with you that whoever wins the game Friday, the Pac-12 championship, they are in. They are in. If it's Washington, they should hold serve and stay there at number 3. I think if it's Oregon, I don't think Oregon can surpass number 4. I don't think, which will matter more so once we get to the final seedings and stuff like that. But I think if they were to win, they'll probably be locked into number 4. I don't think they'll bump them to 3. Then we have the game on Saturday with Texas. Looking at Texas, if they were to beat Oklahoma State, and I look at their games, and I know a lot of people that we follow on Twitter are they're steaming mad, they're hopping mad because they feel like they're not being favored enough to get in. And I just want to look at the games and the opponents and the quality of the opponents. So I know they have the home and home games with Alabama, which they lost. They beat Alabama by 10 on the road, which counts. It weighs heavy. However, when you look at the loss to Oklahoma, that tends to hurt them a little bit. Then I think Oklahoma lost the next week at Kansas too, which also hurts as well. And then you have the close call against Houston back in October. Not looking too good. The double overtime game against Kansas State, again, unranked Kansas State. You then have another close call again against TCU. It's tough, man. It's tough. I don't think the conference has enough weight at the top of the conference to give them that push from 7 to 4. I just don't see it. I don't see it. And I get how people are pissed off, but I just don't see, between their loss and who they lost to and what happened to that opponent the next week, I don't think it's heavy enough for them to make that push. So we agree on that, right?
Yes. That's what I would be saying as an Ohio State fan. Like that Texas, their strength of schedule or whatever is not enough for me to put them in over the one loss Ohio State team who just lost to the second place team by 6 points.
And I do understand that people are saying, well, we only have one loss and we're a conference champion.
Right.
That's all well and good, man. But that's That's it right there. And again, this schedule for your conference and the close shaves you had, and I look at them, I say, well, what's your most impressive win?
Right.
Is it Alabama?
Yeah, and that was
So if your most impressive win is,
that's
yeah,
Alabama before they figured out the quarterback situation.
right,
That's
right,
Alabama before they figured out the quarterback situation. If they played now, that you could say like the whole 9 out of 10 thing, Alabama beats Texas, and that could be true now. But you play the game when you do, and the outcome is the way it is. But that win looks that win looked good now. But as the season, as they got close, as the season went on and their game stayed close and Alabama turned it on, they found their quarterback, they found their offensive groove. You're like, that might not have happened now. And I think that's kind of what the CFP committee is going to say.
and you know what? And as much as I hate conference bias, because I really do, I truly, truly hate conference biases here. But I almost think that there's a case to be made that you could, in effect, rank Alabama above Texas. Just looking at this, man. I mean, because they did beat a ranked Ole Miss team, so
Yes.
you have that. You beat a ranked number 13, of course, but you beat a ranked LSU team. And again, you have, and I know I don't want to backtrack here, it was close calls playing against Auburn, but you have a big game this week where if you beat the number 1 team in the country, yeah, I mean, that has to propel you forward. It has to. It's just, I mean, there's no way around it. It's going to be Bama. Now, is Bama's win? Bama, let's put it this way. By winning this weekend, in your opinion, they can't jump from 8 to 4.
No,
Win only.
You
need FSU to fall, right?
Yeah, FSU would have to fall, but with that, so if this happens, so if FSU wins but Alabama beats Georgia, regardless of Florida State winning, they're not getting in the CFP because the ACC is nowhere near as strong as
the SEC.
As the SEC and what Alabama has done to that point then. Because who would be Florida State's best victory? Over Louisville, who just lost to Kentucky.
Over Louisville.
Who just lost to Kentucky, who is a mid-tier SEC team. So, like, ACC is not strong enough. Clemson wasn't good enough this year. They weren't strong enough. And they're the ones who have propped up the ACC recently. North Carolina, they fell off. Duke, they fell off. And then you have Florida State sitting here, and it's like, oh, hey, we're a blue blood program.
Last man standing.
We're back, but the ACC is not strong enough. It doesn't give you that credibility to put yourself in there, especially if Alabama says, "Hey, Georgia, we're gonna whoop up on you right now." So then you would probably, if that would be the case. So, man, if Georgia loses, you'd probably take Michigan up to 1, either Huskies or Ducks up to 2, Georgia 3, Alabama 4, or you flip the 3-4. I mean, that's.
Now, you tell me this is fair game or not. So I have a theory here, right? Do you think talent has anything to do with how they see these things, with how they vote? And I'll ask you that question with a follow-up to go after it. But do you think talent has something to do with this?
Yes, because no matter what, they think that they're gonna get the best possible outcomes for TV ratings, for money. So like if you let's say you get a clash of styles in there. So let's say you do get so Georgia number 1, and then you're gonna end up playing, let's say you play we saw was it last year or this year that they played the Ducks and wiped them? Was that this year? No, that was last year. Dan Lanning's first year. Yeah.
Week 1.
Then you kind of have that thing going. That's a clash of styles. Like Bo Nix is playing a lot better now than he has ever. He's got like an 80% completion percentage or whatever it is. It's crazy. So that like the clash of styles is big. The talent pool is big because everyone wants to see future NFL talent playing in championship weekend. And then what teams, if they move, they're going to look at, well, who's going to be 1, who's going to be 4, who's going to be 2, who's going to be 3, and then they
Exactly.
say we're going to put these teams here, and they're going to give us the best matchup for this game, the national championship, because you can't tell me that they wouldn't be salivating over an all SEC championship game, an all Big Ten championship game, like Ohio State and Michigan again. They would love that. They would love Georgia to go for the three-peat. And then, like you said, styles of clashes. Like if you had, let's say the Huskies versus Georgia, or whoever. But I don't see like Florida State. They're a very good team. They're a very complete team this year. They got Johnny Wilson. They have Keon Coleman. They got their defense is very good, but you're missing your star player. You're missing Jordan Travis.
There.
He's the money guy, like you said. The centerpiece isn't there, so they're kind of like, hey, he's not there. You guys won, but it's always that but. But yeah, I think they do take talent into it. They take the best possible matchups and looking future into what may be.
What grows the sport, I think that's the key. And I think it's so, and I'm not a person that normally agrees with the system itself. Because I think even when it was first introduced, I'm like, why only 4?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
We get 12 next year, right? But
that said, I do feel like,
is it 12 next year?
Yeah. And I think here's what it is, though. I think there is pressure from the committee to get this right.
Yeah.
I think there's a real external pressure for the committee to get things right, to what grows the sport, what expands it. I mean, we've seen across all major sports in America, like the growth and the popularity of just tweaking your playoff system a little bit. I've seen it with the NBA, with the play-in tournament. I've seen it with NFL. I've even seen it with baseball. Like the expansion of your playoff, it creates a lot more intrigue. And again, I've always said this before, the bedrock of sports is to cater to a casual fan base. And that's what draws people in. Even look at the whole Taylor Swift effect in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Like the casuals pay the bills. And I think making it more expansive is very important. However, what I think they don't want is they don't want a repeat of the title game last year. They do not want to go out and say we have TCU playing Georgia and it's a smoke fest.
Yeah.
They don't want that. So bringing in Florida State, who again is talented, but without their star player, that's going to be a hard sell in those meetings and in those decisions that are made. It's a hard sell, because if you bring them in and you exclude Alabama, for example, who beat the conference champion, they're going to want to see that. Like they're going to want to see even a rematch of that. They're going to want to see, oh, okay, you beat them. All right, well, let's see. We'll make them number 2, and you guys will be the 3, or something crazy like that, or 4. Like they're going to want to see that again. So I think for teams, and it sucks, but for teams like Florida State, where you beat Louisville, the conference and the conference opponent is not as weighted as it should be. Even from, again, if you factor in talent, Plummer, Jawar Jordan, it's not as a heavy hitter as Alabama, say, for example, taking down Beck, Brock Bowers, Jack Saint. It's not quite the same. It doesn't have the same ring that it would. And I think that's kind of the caveat there. So we can probably agree here. 5-3, whoever wins the Pac-12 title, their ticket is punched. No questions, no ifs, ands, or buts. It's a win-in scenario there. Texas, again, I think, just to be fair, right? I want to make sure I hit this right to be fair. Walk me through a scenario where Texas makes 4. What has to happen for Texas to make number 4?
Well, so they're going to have to blow out Oklahoma State, and then Louisville's going to have to beat Florida State. I think that's the only way Texas slides into 4, because that puts, if they, let's say they beat Oklahoma State by, let's say 3 touchdowns. Let's just say 3 touchdowns. Okay, so then
all right,
you say, hey, Blue Blood College, we're back, and they keep saying it, like they feel disrespected. Texas against the world, whatever you want to say, and then let's say Florida State. Let's say Florida State wins, but they win like a 3-point game against Louisville. So then you're like, well, Texas has all of its players. Texas has, I think they're running back out, I think. But it's just like Texas is here. Sarkisian, he has a good season. And Texas is going to bring you probably more money, more views, to play against like a Georgia than what Florida State would. Yeah, I think
It almost feels like a
I think if
Cinderella,
Florida
sort
State
of.
loses or they play it really tight and Texas blows out Oklahoma State, there Texas slides in.
Hmm.
Because remember,
Okay.
there's Ohio State sitting there at 6, and they're just
Right.
waiting for one of those. Because, like you said, the loser of 3-5 is gone, no matter what. The loser of
Yeah.
3-5 is gone, and then if Louisville in the same in this, so let's say Texas keeps, let's say Oklahoma State either beats Texas or keeps them close. That 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 keeps Texas out of there. Same thing for Louisville. If they
Hmm.
play Florida State close or they beat them, is that enough for Ohio State to say, hey, we're worthy of this? We played the number 2 team, really tight in their own house, and we only lost by 6 points. Is that enough to slip them into the 4 spot, who's just sitting there, which that is just waiting for Florida State or Texas? But if they don't show enough, Ohio State says, hey, we're right here. We want Georgia again.
So okay, so I kind of want to make sure I got this right on Texas. So Texas would require a blowout, and mind you, they are a 15-point favorite
Mm-hmm.
as it stands right now. So they would need the blowout, probably cover more than the spread. Like you said, 20 points at least. So 20 points. Okay, you have that in the works. They also need Georgia to smash Alabama, right? Like crush them.
Correct.
Nah, not crush them, just beat them. Probably at least beat them. We'll say beat them. All right, so you have that at work, and Ohio State is kind of at 6, kind of looking inside based on what's going on. For me, yeah, man, I think for Texas to even have a remote shot, I need to see Louisville beat them. I
Yeah.
think you need Louisville to beat them. I think you need Louisville. I mean, it can't be close. I think it has to be okay. They lost. They're out. They're gone. They have to lose, man. I think that's Texas's avenue, and that sounds a bit unfair, but that's how it works. I think. Now, as you said, number 6 for Ohio State. So for Ohio State, it has to be almost not a royal flush. I won't say a royal flush. That's not it. I know I mentioned a scenario where, you know, it won't happen. We're not going to have Michigan lose to Iowa. That's not going to happen.
Right.
But almost you need to see a royal flush, which is you have to see Georgia win. Michigan will probably win anyway. And then number 3.
See, I don't think the winner.
has to
I don't think the
be-
winner of that game really matters, because the loser of the Pac-12 title game is gone. They're gone. There's no way that they just slip down to 4. There's absolutely no way. So you would have to have Oregon win,
So
and then
kicking out.
it'd be so close that either Florida State or Ohio State don't deserve that spot. But I just
Can't see it happening.
yeah, there's
Can't
no
see it
way. The
happening.
loser of that game is gone, and then you're sitting there with Florida State, Ohio State, and Texas waiting, and it all depends on what happens in the ACC championship and the Big 12 championship.
So you need Louisville.
Yeah, that's the game. If you were talking about Saturday spot, I don't even know if it's on Saturday, if it's on Friday. I don't know, to be honest with you, because I haven't looked at the schedule
Saturday
yet.
night.
Saturday. Okay,
Saturday
so
night. But
so you're
yeah.
I need Louisville to beat Florida State. Come on, Plummer. Come on, Plummer. that's all I can.
we
They
are
play-
now at begging season, and we've gotten
Yeah.
that far.
Yeah, I mean that.
So,
I mean,
okay.
if Ohio State doesn't make it, they hurt themselves. But they're out
Exactly.
they're out there with a puncher's chance. They're out there. They were in the Royal Rumble, and they slid out between they slid out underneath the bottom rope, and they're just waiting until the final 3 people, and they're gonna slide back in. They're pulling all the Mike Mizanin on everybody. But we're just gonna, if they get thrown over the top rope, it's on them. That, like I said, it's all their fault. But there is a puncher's chance for them to slide into the dance and host their own little WrestleMania season. So I'm excited for it.
They got the best shot. I think that's what it is. They have the best shot at any team outside the current top 4. It is Ohio State, based on what happened. And I think their needs aren't as complicated, put it that way. They're not as convoluted. It's almost straightforward. Hey, a tight game. I think for them, a tight game with Louisville and Florida, where it's tight or close, or hey, they lose altogether. I think, yeah, you can kind of make that conversation. I think we agree. The loser of the Pac-12 title game is gone. But this all works out well unless Alabama throws a whole monkey wrench in this
Yeah.
and wins. I think
Yeah.
that's the key, is Alabama not winning. So you need Louisville, and I think you need Alabama to just stay dead.
Yeah, I mean,
think that's the
if
key.
you want like crazy chaos to happen, Alabama win. Let's just say, let's just, I mean, Iowa's not gonna win, so Alabama win, Michigan win. So you obviously have the Huskies versus Oregon. So let's just say Oregon wins, and then you have Louisville winning, and then let's just say,
Bama wins.
yeah, Bama wins, and then let's just say, Texas does beat Oklahoma State,
Blow them out.
Yeah, I mean, your guess is as good as mine. Who that top four is going to be?
Michigan.
I had no
so
idea.
Michigan slots the number
Michigan
one.
would be one.
Okay, so by default, they're the number one. I think what you're going to do is you're probably, if Georgia were to lose and it's a close margin, I feel like you do have to elevate Alabama to number 4. So it'd be Michigan. Georgia would be probably number 3 for Alabama. Then I have to decide who's 2. Man, I mean,
it'd be the winner of the Pac-12.
Florida State.
It'd be the winner of the Pac-12.
Likely to be Washington. Yeah, it has to be. So we're looking at Michigan, Washington, or Oregon, and Georgia, Alabama. Man, so that means, what do you have? You have Michigan.
You have Michigan versus Alabama, and then Georgia versus
Alabama,
Washington.
Which isn't bad.
Okay.
So guess what you're gonna get?
Yep.
You're getting the SEC title game.
Yep.
You're getting the SEC title game.
Yeah,
that would suck, man. That actually would suck.
Yeah. But we talked about it at the beginning of we talked about this at the beginning of the season, though, because we talked about the super conferences coming. Then the Pac-12 is gone, so the 2 teams that are there for the Pac-12, they're gonna be representing the Big Ten next year. So or Big 18 or whatever the heck it's gonna be. Next year they eliminate divisions too. But so now it's kind of rendering, even with the 12-team playoff, you're kind of rendering the other conferences obsolete, because the Big 12 is not going to have anybody worth a damn. ACC is not going to have anybody worth a damn, besides maybe if Clemson comes back in Florida State, and if it keeps up with Big 10 teams here, SEC teams here, and they're going to fill the top 12 with the occasional Notre Dame or occasional ACC team, you might see Florida State and Clemson move to the SEC, like we talked about it before, unless Notre Dame forgoes their independency and goes to the ACC like they did in basketball. But it's almost like, hey, here's the Big Ten, here's the SEC. We're just gonna collide one last time before this 12, this 12-team thing that starts next year with these super conferences, which we basically already see within the top 12 anyways. Before they officially make it official, we're gonna get one last hurrah of Big Ten and SEC, and I think that's what they want. That's why you don't drop Ohio State below Texas, and they're not playing this weekend. That's why you keep them in front of Texas in case something crazy happens. And then with the whole Florida State Louisville thing, and it's what they want. And like you said, they would absolutely love for an all SEC title game. They would absolutely love it, and I would not watch that game.
Man. It is what it is, man. It's what it is, dude. But before we wrap tonight, man, any other last thoughts you want to get out there?
No, man, we went like 35 minutes or so we're good. I'm excited. It's championship weekend. Yeah. A lot of good games. Like we talked about, most of them mean something. So just sit back and enjoy the ride, and don't forget the group of 5 games. The Toledo versus Miami Redhawks.
Oh yeah. Nice and if you're gonna watch Liberty in New Mexico State. Yeah. If you're into that kind of thing.
This isn't week 0. I don't think I'm turning those on.
But guys, once again, man, thanks for watching the show, guys. Hit the like button, hit the sub button. Also, bear in mind, next week we will have a recap and a reaction video pretty much on everything that took place in the CFP. Who lost, who got hurt, who got screwed. Might just be a whole who hurt or helped themselves the most episode. But once again, man, for LP Cruz, myself, and my man Tyler Moore, this has been the Freshman 15 College Football Podcast. And as always, peace.
Peace.